Planning the American Dream, developing a sustainable neighborhood, Hammond's Ferry, based upon a historic plan for the community. After World War II, suburbs flourished. As many commuters moved farther from cities and into subdivisions, their lives became more separate from one another. Homes were no longer down the block from the corner store. Offices sprang up in business parks. It became yet another drive to get to church or school. Suburban homes became so large they began to wall off the family from one another. As a result, American neighborhoods disintegrated, and with them, the American dream.
I used to build conventional suburban residential development and homes that were very typical of much of what is being built in America today. And I found that there was a problem, that the homes were too much alike. The price points within the homes were very specific, very tightly ordered, and people were trending, we saw, to see if they could get closer into the village or closer into town. For 100 years before World War II, we were building neighborhoods exactly on these principles. I started reading about these new ideas of the new urbanism, and I realized, my goodness, this is how I grew up. Of course, it makes sense. That sort of community, that sense of neighborliness, is something that actually happens by design.
North Augusta is relatively young compared to most towns in this area. It's only 100 years old. It was designed by an Austrian, a fellow named Charles Beck. The riverfront, however, never was really completed. According to the Beck plan, it was intended for manufacturing and business. The plan today still shows this street, Railroad Avenue, that we're sitting in front of right here, Front Street along the river, is all on the plan. And there was initially a great deal of effort was made to start some industry, and there was primarily brick manufacturing and pottery facilities. The clay was mined from the land here and made into bricks and pottery and so forth. But the river flooded, and even though these business enterprises had taken shape and there was a great deal of actually construction on the property, it never was completed because finally everybody just pulled out. But the land was used, and it was actually abused to a certain extent from the late 19th century until around 1950. In the 1950s, they built dams up and downstream, and the river stopped flooding. It hasn't flooded since, at least this property hasn't flooded since. FEMA decided to move the flood lines. The riverfront in North Augusta could finally be developed. Developers come out of the woodwork. There's a golf course downstream from here. There's another, just conventional suburban community on either side. And the city leaders saw that, if we don't, take control of this situation, the riverfront, the Beck plan, the part, really the heart, the nucleus of the whole city plan was going to just turn into anywhere else in America.
Midway through the Hammond's Ferry project, the developers discovered 2 clay pits were polluted. By working with city leaders and scientists, what looked like a terrible setback became a significant benefit. The developers are constructing wetlands to clean the polluted water. The new wetlands will be beautiful and provide a haven for a rich assortment of wildlife.
Our plan now is to restore these ponds the way they should be. In doing so, we've lost 100 lots from the plan. We've lost 100 home sites from our plan. But we also realize that in doing so, we're creating a new model for how responsible developers should pursue their duties. This is going to be really a new paradigm on how the development community and the ecological community can work together. We're going to have what we're going to consider the first urban ecology park in the United States. We're in the middle of a town here.
There's a certain amount of risk in doing this kind of development, but there's risk in every kind of development. This is where green building really takes over. Rather than building a suburban cul-de-sac community on another 100-acre farm, if you build back in close or within the cities, you're actually building typically in places where you have existing infrastructure already in place. So we're using or expanding existing sewer systems. We're building in a much more compact form, so we're getting more units per acre, which is a much more sustainable model in which to build over time. The houses themselves are being built with new greener materials and systems, HVAC systems, heating and cooling systems, lighting systems. The energy use and energy demand is being dramatically reduced. And of course, by building just more efficiently on a smaller square footage footprint, it's also more efficient. But by having diversity in price point, you can get young, youngsters coming in that may be either renting or buying a house for the first time. And you can also, in these neighborhoods, they're very appropriate for seniors. They're walkable communities. The pedestrian principle of having a walkable community is really, really important. Every time you build a house, and we do have strict architectural design codes, we use a pattern book, and that helps us, together with our Builders Guild, keep quality up. Every time you build a house, you add to the value of the neighborhood. What we're really offering is community. So we'll have a group of builders that are selected very carefully as a prestigious admission into a guild where quality really matters. More and more builders are going to start studying what these builders in Florida and elsewhere are doing, the larger builders, and that is where I think we're really going to see a sea change.
When this project was envisioned, and I had the privilege of being one of the Builders Guild members, it gave me an opportunity to build homes the way I wanted to build them. We were able to bring in the advantages of technology in this neighborhood, but not lose the look. If you look at old homes, you'll see the thickness of the materials that create shadows. And I think some of the modern construction has lost some of that. They've concentrated more on efficiency. Well, we've been able to marry the two. We use the architecture of Augusta, which is a very diverse architecture, to model this place. We're always looking at historical homes to pick up little details to make the difference. And when you walk in one of these homes here at Hammond's Ferry, most people will tell you there's something different. There's less focus on the automobile and more focus on pedestrian traffic. And you can see as you walk around, there's a lot of sidewalks. The developers spend a lot of time and quite frankly money in putting in the infrastructure in place that encourages people to walk. You'll find more people interacting with each other here than you'll find in a traditional modern neighborhood. And it could have easily gone another direction. This is valuable property, but yet the developers recognize the value of creating this kind of unique environment.
The neighborhoods are designed, as we said, just the way we used to build it. Narrow roads and roadways, sidewalks, they're very pedestrian friendly. And the narrow roadways are there for a purpose. That slows down the automobile traffic.
All the roads lead to the river. All have access to the river. The people that I built for, some of the residents here, I've spoken with them and they love it.
This is one of our little cafes in our town center that they're developing. It's mostly residential, but there's going to be a few little sandwich shops and cafes and coffee shops and a few small businesses. It wouldn't take me 1 minute to walk out my back door to get here. Shortly after the conception of Hammond's Ferry came about, my husband was telling me about it. And we even drove to Charleston to look at the Ion community, which is a similar neighborhood, so that we could, get the closeness of the homes and kind of decide what we wanted with it. But we liked the community aspect of it, sitting on the front porch and talking to your neighbor as they come out on their front porch, or the nice sidewalks that we can walk the children down. It's a small community within a city. We looked at many other neighborhoods. Some of them actually had a longer commute, so this was a benefit for that. But price-wise, the houses were about the same. I mean, you can choose your size here, and we were needing something bigger, but the other neighborhoods had the same thing. They just had more yard. We're in discussion now of selling the lawnmower. I think it takes him longer to prep the yard than it actually takes him to mow the yard. Literally, last night, less than 5 minutes. But it's small and quaint. It's great for little courtyards, little patio areas. Perfect for barbecues. We're just a block away from the river, which is where the Greenway runs. And the Greenway is, I think, a 7-mile track, that it's a really wide track. And you can walk on it, you can blade on it, you can bike. There are many different things that you can do on it. And a lot of people actually drive from Augusta over here to get on the Greenway. Well, we don't have to drive, we can just walk. Now, my husband works in downtown Augusta, and so it's like less than 5 minutes for him. So that does give us a little bit more family time. Usually my husband's walking in, we're sitting down at the table, and then we get up from dinner and we take a nice little family walk. Tonight when we go home after the event, we'll probably be grilling hamburgers with our neighbors. And it's just real quaint and casual, so it's definitely worth the wait.
Hours that we have for relaxation are really precious. And the best way we found for people to enjoy those hours is to live in a neighborhood that is proximate to their place of work.
This community reflects the the values and the intuition that, you know, I've always felt of how community should be, how people should live together and work together and play together.
Now we've got this development that I'm involved in, and it's just been fun. I guess the best way to say it's been rewarding to be involved in it at this stage of my life.
Everybody deserves something beautiful. So, you know, the most beautiful part of the project was made into the most important civic space. The public realm here is the heart of it is the riverfront.
You can sense where you are just by walking down the street. These are not new ideas. This is the way we used to build America.